Hey everyone, it's Tom. Welcome back to a brand new video. Today I want to talk about my experiences completing my first official A-level exam. Today, on the 26th of May 2022, I undertook my first out of 3 A-level exams. Speaking about my experiences in sixth form is something I've not done that much of besides on live streams and just general life updates. But today was a huge day because it marked the beginning of the end of my experience in sixth form. I have 3 A-level exams and 2 history, 1 drama, and basically I took my first one today. I have my drama one on Thursday, the 9th of June, and my final one being on Friday the 10th. Quite a fitting day actually, because Friday the 10th of June will mark my final day at not just sixth form, but the learning facility I've spent 7 years at, which is absolutely mental. Extremely weird and emotional time in my life, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all comes to a close. But yeah, I just want to talk a bit about my experience actually going into the exam and like revision techniques I had, and basically how I managed to go into the exam with a mindset that for people who have survived severe and serious mental health problems like myself can kind of go in and just kind of slow things down a bit, slow things down mentally, so that when you go into the exam hall you're actually not as you're not as anxious. So basically, right, the day itself, so I got on the 7:30 bus to get to sixth form because I had to be outside of the examination hall for 8:45. And basically, this hall is actually quite personal to me because it's where I first performed as well. But it goes from an auditorium to an examination hall, and yeah, I was outside the hall for about 10 to 9. I got there at about 8:05. So I jumped straight to my history classroom where a lot of other students were. I was talking with my history teacher and my cover teacher, as I have 2 history teachers, one for both the Britain side and the Nazi Germany side. And basically my Nazi Germany history teacher was there alongside the the cover teacher. She's not a supply, she's a fantastic history teacher. I just unfortunately couldn't really spend the last few lessons with her going over revision, because of the fact that my teacher, my main history teacher, had to go off and for medical and personal reasons, which is absolutely fair enough. So we were left with a teacher that, albeit she is fantastic, she could not really fit us in, which is unfortunate, but at the same time it all kind of paid off in the end, and it just kind of goes as a bit of a testament to the success, because we managed to get through that period of revision without necessarily having a main classroom to consistently go to for those few months. But yeah, we got outside, spent about half an hour in the class actually getting some last minute revision done, preparing myself mentally for the exam, getting all my equipment, making sure my phone's in my bag, making sure nothing I needed is in there, or nothing I couldn't used to cheat was in there. I wouldn't have cheated anyway, but if they'd have caught me with it, then it would have been a big fat 0, and 33% of my A level would have been scrapped. So the actual the revision techniques. The revision techniques I used were quite simple, simple but effective. I created 2 timelines. This is a parliamentary reform and protest exam. So I created 2 timelines, one of parliamentary reform and one of protests. I only looked at a few protests. I covered all the major reform acts. There was only 4 of them, or 3 you can actually argue about in an essay. And for the protests I revised thoroughly the ones I was most confident on. Things like the Sparfields, Peterloo, Merthyr Tydfil. I ended up adding a few more just to be safe. I added Luddism and the Scotch Cattle, just to kind of give myself more protests across a broader perspective. And basically across my revision period, I began to condense these protests and these reform bills into flashcards, and alongside the other information found in the timelines, I also made a series of flashcards based on the causes for reform and just some names of significance I can drop down here and there. I actually only ended up needing about, or the information, or some of the information from about 4 of those flashcards across all of it. You know, I no, actually, I take that back. I used about, out of the 18 flashcards I made, only about 6 of 18 flashcards I actually used, which is quite bizarre. Only a third, and that is basically, you know, that's the irony of a history exam. You're only using, or a history exam on reform, you're only using about 5% of the knowledge, or in my case, a third of it. I condensed everything in the course, 100 years worth of context, into just 18 flashcards, and honestly, I cannot say that I could have gone into that exam any more prepared. Now, I want to talk about my mentality going into the exam. I will completely admit I am someone that has suffered in the past with depression, still do suffer with anxiety here and there, as well as other problematic forms of mental health. And basically, as someone who has had to deal with those things, and not too, you know, it's not too far away from the times that I did, you know, last year. The reason why I was very inconsistent with posting last year is because my mental state was awful. But going into the exam, I basically seen the paper the Year 12s got. The Year 12 sat their exam, I believe, a week before I did. So basically, we gained access to what the Year 12's question actually got, because teachers will receive the question their students get whilst the students are partaking in the exam. Or in my case, we didn't know until after the exam, because we ended up telling the teacher what question we got once we completed the exam. And basically, we saw the question the Year 12's got, and it was horrifying. If I'd have sat that exam last year, regardless of all my personal mental health problems, I would not have passed that exam. I was very very lucky with last year. Last year was obviously COVID. We did CDGs instead, and as I was battling my mental health problems, I still managed to come out with a B in history, which I was absolutely blown away by. I had no idea how I did it, but I did, and I'm really proud of that. But basically, you know, my mentality after seeing that paper was that I needed to expect something as hard as that was going to show up. Now, that can be quite a dangerous thing to do. However, if you take your mind into a realistic scenario, it's actually better than you think. Because if you expect something you struggle at to come up, it naturally gives you more of an instinct to go and revise what you struggle at and improve what you struggle at. You know, that's kind of my take on it, really. Because I was quite, you know, I didn't want trade unionism to show up. I didn't want Chartism to show up, and even though I'm really good at protests, I didn't really know that much on Chartism, so I went back to add more flashcards about Chartism and the Scotch cattle. You know, I thought at the time I was only going to need about 5 protests. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a bit of a gamble, and I'm going to add some more. I didn't want to go overboard. I ended up dropping it. The information I used was more so just like a reference in a TV show. You know, when a name drop, for example, just name dropping protests here and there to further back up what I was saying, and you know, it worked out brilliantly. But yeah, my mentality going into the exam, I honestly would be very proud if my 2021 self saw me going into that exam I did today. So if my 17-year-old self saw adult Tom, 18-year-old Tom go into an exam, I think 17-year-old Tom would have had a little bit more hope than he had at the time. So that was a real testament to me doing the exam. And now I do want to talk about the exam itself. So as I mentioned before, I expected a really hard question to show up, but surprise, surprise, the invigilator asks everyone. We get into the hall. She asks everyone if we've got a, mobile phone, MP3 player, anything that can give or receive a digital signal. Yes, I've heard it that many times across mocks, across GCSE mocks. I can actually recite the little spiel she has to give at the start of every exam. Only this is for the first time I've actually heard it for real, I guess, because besides the year 10 ones, But yeah, anyway, so in terms of the exam, I opened the paper, or in this case flip the paper, because basically as it's a history exam we had the information sheet, WJC A2 Unit 3 Option 6 written, parliamentary, all that information on the front. You turn it on the back, that's what the questions are. We had a pink booklet. The pink booklet is basically where we ended up using or ended up writing the essays. And basically I went in and I did everything. I could literally hear my main teacher at the back of my head. Everything she said, everything. You go in, you read the question, you break down the question to plain English, then you write your plan, and after you write your plan you start writing your essay. You make sure your introduction and conclusion match, and then you write your three main paragraphs to form your main body. Make sure you cover the whole time period, admit to any weaknesses in your argument, and then counter argue the weaknesses. Don't forget to bridge your part. I remembered the whole lot for both essays, and this was the first time in my life I had to write 2 essays for one exam. For all the mocks I did, the year 10 GCSEs, I do count them. They were proper exams, but they weren't part of an official exam season. I only had about 5 exams for the year 10 work. That was it. I had 3 for year 13, but that's only because of the 3 I've chosen. It's very different back then a few years ago. But yeah, the exam, the questions were really nice. The first question was asking about the parliamentary protest. The second one was about asking first one was about parliamentary reform. The second one was popular protest. I feel pretty confident on both of them. I'm not going to try and overthink too much. I don't want to think about things I could have done. I don't want to think about the things I did do, because at the end of the day I've done the exam. I just want to document my experience doing it. In all fairness, it was a really good moment just to finally get that side of history done with, because even though I had a fantastic teacher and I loved my class, and I was good at the work, I was great at the essays, I got my notes in, I did everything I could right there and then, I did not enjoy the entirety of the course. I think I much preferred the content of the year 12 course and the year 12 syllabus over what we had to do in year 13. But it's because of the work I've completed in year 13 that has enabled me to take the skills forward, because at the end of the day a lot of people choose history because it's a subject that teaches you how to academically write. And when you're a student that's aspiring to go to university, albeit yes, I'm not doing a humanities subject, I'm doing a performing arts based subject, understanding how to communicate in a formal setting is extremely beneficial to any student, no matter what they do. And I'm so glad that I took history for that specific reason. At the start of year 12 I took 4 subjects: history, drama, Welsh Bac and English Lit. I dropped English Lit, quite a few reasons behind it. Again, the mental health stuff, but also the fact that I didn't really need it to get into the uni I wanted to. Even though English and drama work hand in hand, I think history and drama actually have a better relationship. Not because of the analytical perspective, but also the the formation of a thematic performance and a theatrical production. I think, you know, you've researched the context more, understand how people were, so when you're acting you can kind of mix it. I think history has really helped me in that regard, and to be honest, I think it's made me a better, not just a better actor in that sense, but it's made me a better, you know, writer, storyteller. And as much as I love doing English in year 12, I feel like the skills I gained in English in year 12 couldn't really carry them forward to year 13 because I already knew it. History, though, I was constant growth, constant development. I feel like if I wanted to actually learn stuff, history was the better option to stick around with. But yeah, so the exam was good. I'm quite proud of this exam. I have my next one 2 weeks today. It is my drama exam. Now I am going to make a full video documenting my experiences in both the practical and the theory exams. I'm not going to talk about the drama one in its own. After I've completed it, I want to document all of it. Probably won't be until about a week after I leave, just because the next day I'll have my history exam. I'm not happy with the timetable, the timings of both my final two exams, but that's another story in itself. But yeah, in terms of revision recommendations and, you know, student support, my best bet would be to make sure that you are ready for this exam. Not make sure that you know all the stuff. Make sure you know the technique. You and yourself, ask yourself if you're okay. You know, that's a massive thing to ask. I asked myself that on the night last night before I did the exam. I was like, are you okay? And you know, some things did go around through my head because I'm human. You know, I think a lot. I have a lot of history. You know, ironic, really, because I'm doing a history exam. I have a lot of history in myself in terms of things I've done, the man I've become. And I asked myself if I'm okay, and I'm like, you know what? I'm as good as I can be in this current moment, and that's why I went forward and did the exam to the best of my ability. If I hadn't have done that, I probably would have just gone in, had a panic, and lost everything I had remembered. You have to have a clear mind when going into an exam. If you go into an exam all stressed, then you are going to struggle more than you might do if you go in prepared. You know, this is a mentality I wish I had last year. A mentality I wish I had undertaking my year 11 mocks, my year 10 exams. I wish I had that mentality, and it's quite annoying that I developed that mentality on literally my final exams that I will ever sit in the learning facility I've spent the last 7 years at. But you know something, you live, you learn, and that's it. I'm taking this mentality to university. I'm hopefully going to take it into some epic performances I do, and as an acting student, an official acting student, not just your bog standard drama student. You know, I can't wait for that regard. But in terms of revision, I'm not going to patronise anyone, because I feel like sixth form, college, high school, they do that enough. You know, they patronise you. Oh yeah, you should try this out. You know, for me, my best form of revision, my best form of revision is just to talk about it. I know that sounds daft, but you know, have a conversation with someone about your work. Tell someone about how the work makes you feel. What elements of your work make you feel that way? You know, because then you will end up naturally reciting more because of it. Like say you study something that's quite personally, attached to you. Whether, for example, with this course, I look at things like the Scotch Cattle and Merthyr Tydfil, and I'm like, I'm annoyed about those protests because innocent people got hurt and an innocent man got framed for a crime. You know, you're naturally going to remember stuff. Again, I don't want to sound patronising, but take pride in any weird forms of revision you have. Last night I literally filmed the whole video. I'm not posting it, I've deleted the footage, but I filmed an entire video breaking down my entire course. A full section on exam practice, exam technique, and you know, the whole thing came to about 53 minutes long. And that is as stupid and as weird as that sounds. I'm really glad I did it. I'm really glad. You know, flashcards, timelining for history, you know, it's everyone's going to tell you, oh yeah, this is really good. But at the end of the day, you are your own student, so take pride in any way you can maintain information in your head. I may actually do a video breaking down my A-level drama exam before I go into the exam, talking about what I have to do, talking about what texts I'm studying, what performances I'm studying, how the exam's going to work, my ideas and my thoughts on the things I have to remember for the exam. I will do this as well for Nazi Germany. I'm not sure if I will upload it, but because I am an aspiring acting student in university, aspiring to go to university, I want to document my full experience as a drama student for the final time. I will be one, because there will be a considerable difference between just you know, being a full round drama student and a specific acting based student. There will be a bit of a contrast. But yeah, back to the exam. You know, those kind of tips, those kind of things. At the end of the day, you have to kind of think about the principle. And now I am gonna sound a bit patronising here, but I feel like if I want to get this message across, I have to be a bit patronising. You took this subject, yes, you specifically. You took this subject, whether it's history, whether it's psychology, or law, or government and politics, or economics, or whatever it may be. You took this subject. You have your own reasons why you took this subject. And all I can say is, you come before the subject. You come before whatever you're hoping to do with the subject going forward after you get your result. It all comes down to you as a person. You're sitting this exam for your own benefit. If you're an A-level student, you have the choice to walk away. That is a given. If you're a GCSE student, different story. But you have the choice to walk away. If you're deciding not to walk away, then you're taking control. You're taking that step. But with that step comes a lot of ownership that you need to take as well. Every single student is different. We all think differently, we all act differently, we all experience things differently, we all think, you know, we are different. And as a student, it's so important to establish your worth and your personal I'm going to sound like a bit like a preachy git here, but just bear with me. It's important to consider how you as a person is, how you are, before you do anything like this. You know, exams are horrible. I've never agreed with them. I've never wanted to do them, but having done this exam today, it's kind of changed my outlook a little bit. And my outlook now is that you might have to do them, but you can decide how much you want it. You can decide how much. If you decide, you know what, I'm just going to wing it, just going to, you know, do what I can, and it is what it is. That's an attitude to have, but only you can argue whether it's the attitude you should have. There's no right or wrong answer in that. I know which attitude I go for. personally. I wouldn't be that, but at the same time, there's no point criticizing anyone that would, because everyone thinks differently, everyone is different. In terms of you as a person, that's what's more important than the paper, than the, you know, whether you got to answer a 16 marker RE question, a 30 marker history question, whether it's you know, a 25 marker government and politics question, whether it's geography, law, maths, physics, biology, you know, astrophysics, whatever it is, whatever subject you take, you know, it's so important to remember that you come before the numbers and the principles. I will always say to someone, if you've been entered for an exam, don't walk away. Don't back out. Just remember that it's you. It's your name on that paper. It's your name on that little slip that goes, you know, that allocates what seat you're at, where you're at. It's you. Everything you're doing is for you, and you deserve to take pride in that. You should take pride in that, because it's 2 years of your life, combined with 7 years if you're a, you know, returning student, or 2 years if you are a newcomer to whatever facility you've gone to. It's 2 years, 2 massive years of your life. You know, you start sixth form as a 16-year-old, and then you leave as an adult. That's a massive thing to get your head round, and it took me a long time to get my head around it, but I have. And the truth is, there's so much more responsibility that comes in your own well-being than there does with any exam. And that is why, when it comes to doing these exams, it's all down to how much you want it. Because if you really want something, you'll fight for it. And yeah, that's it. That's my experience doing my first official A-level exam. If you are above the age of 18, or you are under the age and you are stupid, I'm not a hypocrite. If you're above the age of 18 and fancy a laugh, take a shot every time I've mentioned the word exam. And don't tell anyone that I said that, because I will get cancelled. But that is it for this video. If you have took your first major exam today, please do tell me how you feel, if you're comfortable sharing with that information. If not, that's absolutely okay. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time, and peace out, guys.